Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. We are John and Wendy Williams with the Short-Term Rental Authority, your authority on all things short-term rental related to help make you the best operator ever. And today we're going to be talking about what to do when you have a Karen. And we apologize to everyone named Karen.
Yes, because it's just a term, right?
Yes.
But I know some very nice Karens. In fact, your mother is named Karen.
My mother's name is Karen.
Yes.
It's unfortunate.
Right. But it's basically, what do you do with somebody who they tend to come in and they find every little thing that they could possibly find wrong, right? And you're thinking, well, there shouldn't be anything wrong, but nothing's perfect.
No.
Like if you went through our house, the cleaners just came today at our house, right? And I guarantee you I could go around and find something.
Yes.
Right.
For sure.
If I wanted to say something, we have a visitor.
Yeah. Well, there's the culprit right there.
Yes. Well, she's the one that makes things imperfect a lot of times with her shedding.
With her shedding.
But she's very sweet.
Yes.
She's very sweet. So what do you do? So you want to talk about like some of the recent, or not recent, well, we did have some recent
that's true.
goings on, right?
We did have one lady. Well,
which one you want to talk about?
Right. Because you will have a Karen. You will have someone who likes to complain about every little thing, every little leaf that they find on the back patio.
Well, that's what this lady's thing was, right?
Yes.
Like a lot of times that starts with, I feel like it's something that initially they saw. It could be anything, really. There's always something that triggers it.
Yes.
I've noticed. And a lot of times it has something to do with the check-in process or something, like they couldn't get in the door, like sometimes technology backfires or we forget to change it or something, right? And they couldn't get in, and it was that initial first experience, and then now they go through and take pictures of dust in the corner and, hey, there's a mark on the wall over here, and how come there's leaves on the back patio? Well, because it's fall.
Right.
And there are trees outside. That's why. Right. And so it kind of becomes this thing, like this one particular lady, that's where it was. It was like there were leaves on this is a townhome, has a patio. Yes, there are trees outside. It's October and November in Charlotte, North Carolina. Leaves fall off trees no matter what you do. And
we have someone to come and do that, but we typically like to wait until all the leaves have fallen, or the majority of the leaves have fallen off the trees. Like mid-November is usually when that happens, right? So we have someone, at least twice a year come and get up all the leaves and put down new mulch and make it look nice. But
well, that was her initial thing.
She wanted it done sooner.
Right.
I get it.
Okay, it's fine. It's fine.
And we did it. We got it taken care of.
We did, and that's usually our response to anything. If there's a complaint or concern or whatever. In fact, that's part of our messaging. The first morning is to say, hey, let us know if anything's not up to your standards. We'll make it right. That type of thing. And this particular lady did not contact us until something like 5 or 6 days into her reservation, and she was supposed to stay a long time.
Yeah, I want to say about 2 months.
Well, she was staying through the end of January.
Oh, wow. Was it
or maybe into December?
I think it was the end of December.
Yeah, it was because I remember thinking it was through Christmas, right?
Yep.
Which is, you're right, about 2 months or something like that.
Yep.
Right? And
maybe 3.
And once it was the leaf situation, and okay, we're going to send somebody out to do the leaves, but apparently she's lived with the leaves for 5 days or something and hasn't told us. And then she starts sending these lists of other things.
Right.
Like
light bulbs were burnt out.
Yeah, there was a light bulb burnout. Okay, so we sent somebody over with the light bulbs. And
the rug in the dining room was a tripping hazard for her husband, who walks with a cane.
Right, which is, I'm like, well, why don't you just roll it up then? But okay, so we sent somebody over to get the rug up.
Right.
Right, and then it was something with the
The toilet was clogged downstairs.
Right. She's like, did they, and kind of this tone, a lot of times it's not even the complaint, it's the tone.
Yes.
Because we sent somebody to get the rug up, and her response back to us was, did the lady tell you that the toilet downstairs has been completely unusable since we've been here?
Right.
I'm like, no, and you didn't either.
Right.
Like
you've been there for 5 days.
I would love to have known about it.
The previous guest didn't say anything. The cleaners didn't say anything.
And she didn't say anything for like 4 or 5 days or something.
And
right.
You didn't say anything for 4 or 5 days.
And she didn't even tell us. She told the runner.
Right.
Who I then questioned, and she said, yeah, I used the plunger for them and it went down. I'm like, okay. Sounds like it's been solved, but maybe we need to send the plumber out, right? And then it was something with the refrigerator door.
Right. The refrigerator door didn't close properly.
I don't think that's true. Because now that sounds like a valid complaint. Like if somebody said, hey, the refrigerator door doesn't close properly, like why didn't we fix that then?
Right.
Because it wasn't that.
No.
It was more like she felt like she had to push it too hard to close it.
Oh, okay.
Like when she closed it, she had to like actually close it. And I don't know what to tell you about that. It's a door.
Right.
Yes, you have to actually close it. Nobody said anything about that either, but okay.
Bless her heart.
You know, but it's almost like no matter what you did or how you tried to fix whatever was coming up, it's like, I fixed this, here's 4 more things I don't like. I fixed this, here's 5 more things I don't like.
It tends to snowball.
It tends to snowball sometimes. And there are some people that no matter what you do, you can't satisfy them. You're just not going to be able to.
And you know, I think sometimes it's just, there's something going on in their lives and they're just genuinely not happy people.
I actually think that's what was going on with her.
Yeah.
I don't know, and I'm not a psychologist, but to me, it came across as she was
just an unhappy person.
She was angry, and we were a soft target.
Yes.
To complain to.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
And we have to respond to her.
Right.
Right.
And she knows it.
Like she's probably in Walgreens yelling at them too.
Yeah. Right. Right.
But they just told her to leave.
Right.
Like we can tell people to leave, but
which we eventually did.
Yeah. So eventually she said, hey, it's so bad I can't stay here. And we said, fine.
After about 10 days. I think she stayed for like 10 days.
Right. Yeah. And we said, okay, fine. Here's our cancellation policy.
Right.
And she paid and left.
Yeah, sure did.
So I'm glad I didn't have to deal with her till December.
Bye, Felicia.
Right. But it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You know? And then of course the people that stayed there before were like, this was great.
Right.
And the people that stayed there after says, hey, this is one of the best places we've ever stayed at.
Right. Right.
So I don't really think it was us.
No, I don't think so.
Sometimes it's not you. So,
but you know, it is important to address issues as guests bring them up. So the question that we like to ask ourselves is it within our power to do? And does it break our system?
Yeah. And those are the questions. In this case, it wasn't our power to do, and it didn't break the system. But
we did it.
So we did it, but it's almost like no matter what we did,
and sometimes that happens, right?
Is satisfied this person.
Sometimes there are people who will never be satisfied. And what do you do about that?
Mm-hmm. We had another one not too long ago where basically I think her actual problem was she didn't realize that she had rented an apartment and not a house.
Mm. Yes.
And so she showed up, and her reasons for not wanting to stay were kind of silly.
Yeah.
It was something like, hey, there are people outside.
Well, there were people hanging around outside, I think is what she said.
Well, it's an apartment complex.
And it was
There's
nighttime.
Lots of people that live there.
Yeah.
And they go outside at night sometimes. I mean, I don't think it was anything nefarious. It's a nice apartment complex.
It is, yes.
Right. I think it really, and she said, hey, I didn't realize this was an apartment.
She did
and sometimes I think you got to read between the lines and realize that, okay, that's actually her problem. Right. And so we let her, I think we gave her a refund, let her go.
We did, because she didn't stay. She just came and left.
She came and left, right? But it's stuff like that, like often. And sometimes, you know what it is? It's somebody that in her case, it's somebody that's expecting Nordstrom's type experience, but they walk into your Target
Yeah.
and they're like, "Where's my personal shopper?"
Yeah.
And like, we don't do that here, man.
All right.
Right. So it's almost, sometimes it's that's the actual problem.
Yes.
Is the expectation.
Expectation.
You get the wrong customer.
Yep.
Right.
It happens.
You
It
get the
happens
wrong
sometimes.
customer, and it happens sometimes. So it's not always your fault. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's like, hey, the cleaners missed something and
Sure.
they shouldn't have. Right. But
Which is something that is within your power to address.
Right.
So address it.
And
Yes.
you correct it. Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But sometimes that's just the thing that sets off the rest of it, right?
Yeah,
That little
totally.
snowball effect.
Yep.
Like if that had never happened, then they would have never contacted you to begin with, and these other things they come up with would have never been even complaints.
Right.
Right. So that does happen. So you were getting to, what do you do about it?
What do you do about
Well,
it?
sometimes you can't do anything about
Right.
it. I think we covered that.
Right.
And then what we do is
We use Hospitable to manage our messaging for us. And on that platform, you can do what's called mark the review, because we have we have it set up so that it automatically sends a review or reviews the guest, and there's a slide bar on there where you can mark it and it says bad review. And what that does is that pushes that review out to, I believe it's 14 days.
Yeah, the point is so you kind of skipped ahead to the reviews because that's kind of implied, but that's what happens. That's what you're actually afraid of. It's like, okay, now this lady's going to leave me a bad review.
Yep.
Right? Because of X, Y, and Z that maybe isn't even my fault.
Right. If you think it's going to happen.
Right. So what do you now you're talking about, okay, what do I do about this bad review that's coming?
Yep.
Right. So part of it is exactly what you said is, I think the time frame is, especially on Airbnb, it's like you got 14 days.
You got 14 days to respond.
And the thing to understand about that is their review doesn't show up until yours shows up.
Correct.
So until you leave them a review, regardless of what they said, it doesn't show up. And if you can wait till the very last second before you leave your review, at least it gives you a 2-week buffer to then get someone else in there to leave you a review. Because the reviews aren't left in order of when they appear, they're left in order of the stay.
Yes.
Right? So if this person stayed 2 weeks ago and someone else, you can get 3 more people in there maybe in that next 2 weeks. Now their 3 reviews, even when this bad one shows up, are going to be the top 3.
Right.
So it kind of buries
Kind
the
of
other
gets
one.
buried, yeah.
And so that's a strategy you can use so that the review doesn't affect you as much, because you don't want the first thing people to read to be, this place is awful because X, Y, and Z, right? So that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you wait till the very last minute, and using a tool like Hospitable does that for you automatically.
Right.
So you don't have to remember, oh God, it's 11 o'clock on the 26th.
Right.
I need to go send that, push that review through, right?
That happened 2 weeks ago.
Right. Because you'll forget all about it.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But that is a good strategy. So, but it is important to know that you have 14 days to respond, and but the guest review will not show up until you, as a host, leave them a review as well.
Right.
So
that is a strategy that we employ. It's basically just part of our procedures. If we even suspect someone may not leave us a 5-star review,
right,
for whatever reason, we just push them,
right,
and push them out 2 weeks, and wait. So that's a strategy for dealing with it.
Yeah.
And then, okay, so say this lady with the leaves and all that, she's going to probably, if she leaves us a review, maybe they won't.
Maybe.
Right. So part of the waiting is, I don't want to give them an additional notification that says, hey, Wendy left you a review.
Right.
Right. So that's part of the waiting as well. But if she leaves us a review, what do we do about it?
Right. So
can we do anything about it?
Well, we always respond to reviews. That is one of
that's number one. Yeah.
That is one of the things that we have our customer experience specialists do, is respond to all the reviews. No matter what OTA, online travel agents, see what they call OTAs, like Airbnb is an OTA, Vrbo is an OTA, Booking.com is an OTA. No matter what platform they come from, we always respond to reviews, good or bad.
Right. And that's important to note that that's different from your review to them.
Right. This is, you can leave a review for a guest, but you can also respond to a review
from a guest. Right. And that's important because later guests who are viewing your listing will see the review.
Yes.
But then right under it, they'll see, hey, your response to it.
Mm-hmm.
And the key there is to realize that, okay, I'm actually not writing it back to Karen. I'm actually responding to the next person that's going to read it.
Yeah. The person reading it, the future guest.
Right. So you want to write it in a way that usually it's something like, this was an issue, it's been resolved, it's no longer an issue type thing.
Right.
Right. And that just gives, a potential future guest the feeling that, okay, they're actually resolving the issues. If there were any, it's resolved now. It's not all just one side of the story. Right. So you want both sides of the story there.
So we try to give them the warm fuzzies.
Yeah, and keep it short.
Sure.
Don't write a large paragraph.
Well, and that's so funny because we coach people on how to, operate their businesses. And this is one of the things that a lot of our students have a really hard time with.
I think a lot of people do because it's emotional. You feel attacked.
Exactly. You feel personally attacked when somebody has bad things to say about something that you spend a lot of money making sure that it's set up well, it looks nice. You spent a lot of emotional energy on getting this listing up and running to a certain standard that you feel like is 5 stars. And if you spend all this emotional energy on something and somebody comes in and says, no, it's not 5 stars, here's all the things that are wrong with it, you're like, what? No, that's not true.
Right. Yeah.
But you feel emotionally attacked and you feel like, well, you want to respond emotionally and you want to write this 3-paragraph response to somebody. And that's really not the way to do that. That's not the way to respond to
right. Because what you want is their emotional response and then your very logical,
professional.
Unfortunately, this person didn't have the experience that they wanted to have, and we tried to fix these issues and they were basically a pain in the ass, but you don't say that.
Right.
But you want to contrast that. You can actually use that against them actually, because now they look like because it's like good review, wall of text about how bad the place is.
Right. Emotionally charged.
And then your response to it saying, unfortunately, Karen had this issue. We resolved it in this way. It's no longer an we welcome you back in the future type thing.
Right.
Or whatever.
We value guest feedback. But it's short, it's sweet, it's professional. There's no emotion to it at all. And it's we're sorry that Karen had a less than 5-star experience. Here's how we address these issues. We welcome guest feedback and we appreciate the opportunity to resolve these issues from any guest. We hope that they have a great experience on Airbnb. Whatever.
Right. Yeah. And then
and bam, you're done.
Bam, you're done. And now you've kind of neutralized that at least wall of text emotional thing that happened.
Right.
Because there was a leaf on your backyard.
Right.
Right. So that's part of it. That's a big part of it. And then the other part of it is sometimes you can actually have these reviews removed.
Yeah.
Because it is affecting your star rating.
That's true.
Like that's a problem.
It does, especially if somebody leaves you a 1 star and you've got, even if you have 10, 20
Well, do the math. You need 25-star reviews to overcome that.
You need 25-star reviews to overcome a 1-star review.
To get back to a 4.8, which would be Superhost status.
Right.
Right. So a 1-star review is actually pretty detrimental.
Yeah, it does affect
because of the way the star ratings work, and because it's almost like 4.8 is almost perfection.
Yeah.
Right. Like even a 4-star review, if you think about it, if you have a 4 and a 5-star review, you now have a 4.5 rating. 4.5. If you have a 4-star and 2 5-stars, now you're at like 4.7. You're still not a Superhost.
Right.
Right. So, having even a 4-star review is one of those, just mathematically, until you have a ton of reviews like we do, once you've got 100 of them, it's not as detrimental.
Right.
Because you've got so many good ones. But especially at the beginning of a listing, that can be almost devastating to your star rating. Right. So sometimes you have grounds to have the platform remove the review. Right. Especially if this is the case on Airbnb, more than the others, I want to say. What you want to do is go read the Airbnb policy, because they actually have a review policy. They also have a content policy. And you want to review those and say, hey, did anything they say, or did this review that they wrote violate Airbnb's policy on reviews? Like, they can't call you names.
Right.
There's stuff like that. Right. It has to be relevant.
Right.
To the stay. So if they say something like, I don't know, the city of Dallas is dirty and it's awful, and that's their review.
Right.
Well, that has nothing to do with you. It's not really relevant to
or the space.
The space, right? If it's something totally external, or the cab drivers are rude in this area, right? That's not relevant to your listing per se, right? So there are certain things they can't come to you and say, hey, either you give us $1,100 or we're going to leave you a bad review.
Oh.
That happened to us too.
That happened.
This was a lady that stayed a long time.
Oh, she did. She stayed for months and months.
I think her stay was something like 146 days or something.
Like that, yeah.
And her real problem was she wanted to leave 3 days early.
Yeah.
And we stuck to our cancellation policy.
Yeah.
So sorry, you got to pay for the 3 days, especially since you're just now telling us 3 days, the day you want to leave type thing.
Right.
Right. And she didn't like that. And she actually, and this is a good tip, she actually called Wendy, and Wendy answered the phone. Right. So one of the things we always say is, because of these content policies and things that people might violate, it's better if you can get them to say it in the messaging system.
Yes. Keep it on the message.
But in this case, the phone rang. Wendy answered it. It was her. And she basically told you, she's like, Wendy, either you give me $1,100 back, or I'm going to leave a really bad review.
Well, she was a host too.
And she was a host, and she knows better.
And she knew exactly what she was doing.
She knew exactly what she was doing, and she knew to call because she knew it would be off the record.
Well, guess what?
What she doesn't know is that we record all of our phone calls.
Yes.
So it wasn't off the record, but, and make sure that's legal in your state. In fact, it's probably a good idea to just say, hey, this call is being recorded, and then you're good. Right. But we actually had a recording saying that. Now, whether you can use the recording as evidence with Airbnb is another story. So I'd say, if you can keep it in the messaging thread, then it's very easy to say, okay, here's the evidence.
Right.
And here's the review.
Right.
And then you can get something like that actually removed. And you said you got an email here recently.
Yeah. So apparently,
as we're filming this is
apparently, yesterday,
November 2020.
Airbnb actually has released winter updates, is what they called it.
Yeah, so they're updating the software.
Right.
But as part of that, they've updated the review policy.
Yes, and they call it retaliatory reviews.
Right.
So there's a new process for getting what they call retaliatory reviews removed from your listing.
Right, and that would be an example of one. That where they're like, hey, because you didn't give me a refund, then I'm going to do this.
Yes.
Right. And in the past, it's been hard to get. It's almost like whichever rep you call.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right. Some say this, some will say this, this kind of thing.
Right.
But I think they're trying to revise that policy. And they said that, hey, even ones that have been in the past will now go back and review. So we might be able to get this lady removed.
Right.
Because initially they would not remove it.
No, we tried.
They would not.
We tried.
So there you go. So we haven't quite fully read through that yet. So I don't really have a lot to say about it, but it's there, and they're aware of it, that it's actually an issue.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, those are really great tips, I think.
Yeah.
I think
So it's, when you get someone who's complaining, basically try to resolve the issue in the most professional way you can.
and ask yourself
Right.
those questions.
And then ask yourself,
Is it within my power to do,
mhm,
and does it break my system?
right. And that's with any request, really.
Right.
Not even just problems, but it could be, hey, do you guys offer bikes for rent? Well, no, we don't.
Right.
Right. So it's not something we normally do. It's just, and so we do that with every request, even if it's a non-complaint.
Right.
Right.
Ask ourselves those questions.
Yeah. And then
you can push that review back 14 days, I believe it is, and so that it gets buried. That's a
or
good
doesn't
tip.
happen at all.
Or it doesn't happen at all if you
Right.
can get it reviewed. And it is possible to.
Well, I mean, they may not even leave you a review.
Well, that's
if
true.
you push it out for 2 weeks,
Mhm.
then they're not getting that extra notification
That's
that
right.
says, hey, when you sent your review, you might
Right.
want to leave her one.
Right.
Right. They'll think maybe they're just not going to leave me one. And by the time they get the notification, it's too late.
Right.
Right. So that's part of it. And then, you were talking about getting it removed. So that is a possibility. If you get a bad review, it is a possibility you can get it removed if it violates one of the top platform policies, basically. Right. Or is retaliatory, which violates the policy. Right.
And try to keep everything in the messaging thread.
Yeah. Try to keep everything
On
in
the
the
platform.
on the platform,
Mhm.
texting and calling and things like that, especially if it's someone you even have an inkling that it's an actual complaint that you're dealing with. Try to keep that on the platform.
Yeah, for sure.
So a lot of times, even if somebody texts us, what we'll do is go back to the platform and respond. Or if
Yeah.
they call, we don't answer the phone. It goes to voicemail. They leave us a voicemail, and then we respond back in the messaging center.
Right.
So we're always redirecting things back
Right.
to that channel.
Right.
And you can kind of train people to
Mhm.
talk to you there.
Yes.
Right. So that's a little tip and trick as well.
Well, we dropped lots of nuggets today.
I think so.
Lots
Yeah.
of little bitty nuggets. Well, we hope you found some value in this episode. We are John and Wendy Williams with the Short-Term Rental Authority, your authority on all things short-term rental related to help make you the best operator ever. And like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah.
On to the next.
On to the next.